This
Today
wasn't a
we
political
uncover the
hearing
shocking
anymore.
truth
It was
about
a
UK
credibility
restaurant
collapse
chains.
happening in real time inside the United States Senate because one man came in with authority, reputation, and years of public claims and walked straight into a room where every word he said was about to be tested under oath. Allegations were thrown, reports were cited, and accusations of misconduct, cover-ups, and false statements were put directly on the table in front of the FBI director himself. And then came the moment that changed everything. One question, delivered calmly but with nuclear weight. Do you know it is a crime to lie to Congress? Watch what happened next.
Revealed 19 out of 20 samples contained no detectable tuna whatsoever. Instead, chicken, pork, and cattle. Display counters aren't heated deliberately. Hot food carries 20% VAT. Cold food doesn't. Your sausage roll is stone cold by design. A tax dodge. Private equity firms bought beloved British brands, loaded them with debt, gutted quality, extracted maximum profit, then walked away as restaurants collapsed. 12 chains. Names you grew up with. Names you trusted. And right now they're hemorrhaging customers in numbers that have executives in absolute panic. One chain closing 68 restaurants in one go. Another's shares down 40% in a year. A third losing £11 billion in market value. A fourth collapsing from 600 locations to 79. These companies built their empires on you never asking questions. Let's keep asking them. But before we get into which chains made the list, I need you to do something. Click the hype button. Not just like hype, because every time you hype this video, it pushes it to more people. More people who need to know what these chains are actually serving. More people who can vote with their wallets. More people who can force these corporations to care about quality again. Because when enough people know the truth, these chains can't hide anymore. They can't keep serving frozen rubbish at restaurant prices and expect you to stay quiet. So, hype this video. Share it. Make sure every Briton who's been ripped off by these chains sees this. And let's get into it. Number 12. Nando's. The peri-peri chicken chain everyone used to love. That quarter chicken meal you're paying £15 for costs them £2.50 to make. Chicken, rice, coleslaw. You're being charged 500% markup, even accounting for rent, staff, and overheads. The profit margin is enormous. And while you're queuing to order, collecting your own cutlery, getting your own drinks, clearing your own table, doing all the work staff should do, they charge you full restaurant prices. Then ask for a tip. For what? But it gets worse. Nando's chicken suppliers are polluting British rivers. The River Wye, voted Britain's favourite river, on the brink of collapse. Chris Packham, Joanna Lumley, Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, all demanding Nando's clean up their act. In February 2026, Nando's ditched their animal welfare pledge, switched to fast-growing chickens with higher suffering rates and increased mortality. And here's what they don't advertise. Workers say portions shrinking, quality dropping, prices rising. One customer put it perfectly. If the chicken shrinks anymore, we may as well call it peri-peri sparrow. Another said, I went to Nando's once because of friends. Once and never been back. Dry chicken. And ordering your own food at the till. It's not a restaurant. While Nando's bleeds customers, independent chicken shops are thriving. Because Britons haven't stopped eating chicken, they've just stopped paying £15 for self-service and corporate secrecy. Number 11. Subway. The fake fresh fiasco. Recently, the New York Times commissioned DNA testing on 60 Subway tuna sandwiches from 3 locations. The result shocked the industry. No amplifiable tuna DNA was present in the sample. The UCLA Barber Lab tested 20 samples from 20 locations. 19 of 20 samples had no detectable tuna DNA whatsoever. All 20 samples contained chicken DNA, 11 samples contained pork DNA, 7 samples contained cattle DNA. Your 100% tuna sandwich.
What you just witnessed was not a normal Senate hearing. This was a full-scale political explosion happening in real time, where accusations were not just exchanged, they were weaponized. Because from the very first moment, the tone was already set. Claims of provably false statements, allegations of misconduct, and a sitting FBI director being dragged into the center of one of the most intense credibility battles ever seen inside a government hearing. And what makes this even more serious is not just what was said, but who it was said about. This is not a private individual. This is the director of the FBI, the top law enforcement official in the United States, now standing in front of Congress, being accused of contradictions, disputed reports, and serious ethical concerns. But instead of a calm clarification, what followed was escalation. Accusations of drinking incidents, missing accountability, and alleged behavior inside government circles were not just denied, they were attacked head-on as baseless, false, and fabricated. And that's where the hearing completely shifted, because at that point, it was no longer about answering questions, it became about survival of credibility. One side presenting reports, media investigations, and documented claims, the other side rejecting everything outright and calling it politically motivated misinformation. But then came the turning point, the moment that defined the entire exchange. The question was simple. Do you know it is a crime to lie to Congress? And instead of a clean legal answer, what followed was refusal, deflection, and escalation of personal accusations. That single moment turned the entire hearing into something much bigger, not just a policy discussion, but a direct credibility clash where both sides accused the other of dishonesty in real time. And as the exchange intensified, both parties stopped listening and started reacting. References were made to alleged reports, financial claims, and operational decisions inside federal agencies, each side insisting the other was distorting facts, misrepresenting evidence, or hiding context. At this point, the hearing was no longer structured debate. It had become a public confrontation between two versions of reality, each supported by its own set of documents, reports, and interpretations. And that's what makes this moment so explosive. Because when a law enforcement chief is being questioned under oath and the response turns into a back and forth of "you're lying" versus "you're lying," the real question becomes bigger than politics. It becomes about trust. Trust in institutions, trust in leadership, trust in whether any side inside this exchange is actually operating with full transparency. And by the end of it, nothing was fully resolved. Instead, what remained was confusion, contradiction, and a hearing that left viewers with one unavoidable impression. Something inside this system is deeply divided, and neither side is willing to back down.